I believe if you want to speak world class, you have to have different goals. And the goal isn't you giving a speech. If you're in a contest, there's a lot of speakers that day. It's not about what happens that day. In my opinion, we need to create speeches, even if it's at Toastmasters or if it's your professional job. We need to create speeches that are experiences, that affect people's thoughts 3 days after you speak. 3 days later. That's how you have to design them, because that's what world-class speakers do. So here's what I mean by that. You give the presentation this day, and 3 days later, your audience member comes to a point of decision, and they have to choose, and normally they'll choose the right-hand fork, the old way. But because they heard you, instead, they choose the better path. They make the better decision. They go with the higher perspective. For example, many of you know my story where I went in the back of a comedy club about 1.5 years into my career, and my comedy mentor, Vinny Favorito, said right in my face, "If you ever turn down stage time, I will never help you again." Okay? He changed my perspective. But he changed my perspective because those days that I didn't want to get up, he made it more challenging for me to not get up than to get up. So here's why I say that. Because I get emails from around the world where people tell me and send me emails that say, "Darren, I got this opportunity to speak. Normally, I would have chickened out. But what I did is I heard your mentor's voice. If you ever turn down stage time, I'll never help you again. I decided to do the speech. I was scared. It was great. They invited me back." Okay? So our goal is not for you to write a speech. It's to create an experience that changes our thinking 3 days later. But how do we change our thinking? It's not easy because we have our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. And most presenters speak to the conscious mind, not the subconscious mind. Here's what I mean. This is your brain. A little generous for me, but maybe it works for you. This is an MIT brain. Okay? So we have our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is what we're thinking of right now. Our subconscious mind is actually where our habits lie. So if we want to change thoughts, we want to change thoughts to lead to changing habits. Changing habits, you change results. So this is where we need to get our message. Does that make sense? So if you think about it, on January 1st, we all want to be healthier. You guys have New Year's resolutions in Canada, right? January 1st, same calendar? Okay. Oh, that's right. It's a Chinese calendar. Sorry. So on January 1st, we decide we want to be healthier, we're going to be more active, we're going to eat better. So on January 2nd, we walk into a restaurant. As we walk in, we see the front counter, there's this gorgeous glazed chocolate donut, and it's just talking to you. And you think, don't eat the donut, don't eat the donut, don't eat the donut. You go and you have dinner, and then you walk out and you eat the donut. Because having a resolution and actually changing your habits are two very different things. Because in your conscious mind, you think you don't want to do something, but this rules who you are, is your habits. And there's two ways to get messages into the subconscious mind. Number one, we all know the mother of learning is what? Repetition, 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 repetition. And all of a sudden, I get it now. That's an aha dropping in. Because you've heard it, you've heard it, you've heard it. Many of you have heard, raise your hand if you've heard me before live. Okay? Raise your hand if you've heard me before live and you've learned something from me new a second time. So that's, sometimes you hear it, but you can't take it all in. If it's a whole new perspective, you can only absorb a few things. Even when I was getting coached in the last moments before the championship, Mark Brown pulled me aside and he said, "Okay, here's 10 ideas. and it's the last couple of days, but guess what? If you can get 2 of them in, that's perfect. You can't absorb them all at once. It's not possible. So number 1 is repetition, 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 and then you get the aha. So if you want to affect people, we need to get into their subconscious mind. If you want to be world class, you need to have habits of world-class presenters. You need to think like world-class presenters. That make sense? The other way is a story well told. Will actually go right into the subconscious mind. Do you remember stories from when you were youth, or maybe a great speaker or presenter, and you still remember them to this day? Raise your hand. Okay, you heard it once, but it was a story well told. You've probably also heard a lot of stories not well told that you've forgotten about. They stayed up here. Okay, so there's 2 ways to change and get into people's subconscious mind. And that's, A, you need to commit to being world class, commit to creating those habits, but also you have to speak with stories well told that their message is so clear that they can hear it once and get it. Make sense?